And hi, everyone. Thank you for participating in our today's webinar on the student housing strategies key recruitment channels for Chinese students. Before we officially start, there are some housekeeping notes we would like to share. On today's webinar, will be started by a short presentation where I will be sharing some of the latest market data and insights on the Chinese student market, including their student performance and their interest in either staying or living in the PBIC overseas. And later on, we will follow up with a panel discussion with industry experts who kindly accepted our invitation for today's webinar. And we will introduce them to you at a later point. And we will cover the topics such as recent market trends, major recruitment channels for the student housing providers, and some future outlook about the student recruitment and partner development. So during the webinar, if you have any questions, any thoughts or insights that you'd like to share with the group, please feel free to utilize the Q&A section on Zoom. We'll be actively monitoring the questions, and we will have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the webinar to address probably at least some of them. So, all right, I think let's get started. First of all, please allow me to introduce myself. I'm Grace Zhu, and I'm the China branch director of Bonut. For those who are not that familiar with us, we are a market research and investment intelligence firm, and we provide in-depth, independent market data and advisory services across the student sector, which including student housing. With a global footprint spanning our 260 markets, we offer comprehensive coverage of the PBIC sector. Some of you might know that in recent years, our China team has forged some partnership with many student housing providers and local aggregators. Through these collaborations, we have received valuable insights into this quite dynamic market, allowing us to offer a holistic view of student mobility trends, some local development spaces, and also the sectorial shifts. We will start from the market briefing on overall Chinese high school graduate and higher education enrollment trends. And first, we can take a look at the national figures for high school graduates and higher education students enrollment over the past few years. Given that the demand for the student housing is mainly driven by the long-term study abroad programs, these numbers can somehow reflect the continued increase student population and the potential market segment. And here we can notice quite obvious increase on the number of high school graduates, especially ever since 2021, which also indicate the student pipeline will be healthy in the following years. We can take a deeper look on the city breakdown. In the chart, the map list over here that we can list it, that number of high school graduates on China's major tier 1 and new tier 1 cities in 2023, along with the percentage increased compared to 2022. And those marked as darker ones in blue are the ones with the highest increase for the past year. And this data is quite crucial for understanding the growing pool of potential students entering higher education institutions, which directly impacting the potential demand for the overseas study and, most importantly, student housing. And the series of favorable policies issued by the national and local governments for returnees, such as flexible settlement policies, tax exemption, and entrepreneurship-related benefits that we list over here, also help boost the students' enthusiasm for studying abroad. And in the meanwhile, on the right side, that we can also notice that the overall average monthly salary for of returnees is higher than the average wage levels in several of the highest paying cities nationwide. So due to the quite huge potential student population that we just mentioned, and various favorable policies for returnees, and we can observe that the overall trend of studying abroad is relatively stable on the rise. The data showcase insight into the outbound trends of Chinese students pursuing higher education sectors. Although there is a quite notable drop in enrollment in the last couple of years, the US remain as the top preferred choice for many Chinese students. And meanwhile, UK has witnessed quite surging popularity, becoming the second largest destination country for Chinese students. And for other English-speaking destinations, Australia has gradually rebounded post a decline. On the other hand, that we can see here that Canada has experienced a gradual decline in Chinese student numbers, potentially influenced by the recent policy changes. For other destinations, such as European destinations, like Germany, like France, they still have a certain market space. And emerging destinations such as Hong Kong, Japan, and also the ones that were not listed here, like Malaysia and Singapore, that they are gaining the attraction because of their destinations affordability and also the similar cultural background compared to China. And those innovations, some innovation programs such as the transfer programs to UK degrees in Asia are also reshaping the traditional studying abroad landscape. And when it comes to the Chinese student visa granted numbers, that we can notice that the visa granted data of the Chinese students in major study destinations on all study level, as that we captured here in our data. Australia, similarly to New Zealand, maintains a constantly rate of the visa approvals, with a total number of visa grants remain quite steady. But we can also see a significant downward trend in Canada, especially this year, particularly because of the policy changes. Just with the data of the first 3 quarters that we have already witnessed a reduction in overall numbers, the decline is already over 50%. And for both UK and the US, the overall visa situation over the past 2 years have been relatively stable. In terms of the total numbers that we can see over here, the UK surpasses the US, and we believe that this trend will be expected to continue. And for UK, experience a surge in student intake normally during Q3, and the US, they can see quite evenly distribution on the overall visas between Q2 and Q3. And we all know that this pattern also aligns with the different academic intake seasons in both countries. In the backdrop of such a quite thriving studying abroad market that we just mentioned, we know that a range of demands associated with overseas study also gradually given rise to established markets. And student housing as the most significant among all of them. Here, taking UK and Australia as examples, that we used UK student accommodation and Australia student accommodation as keywords on the social platform Little Red Book, which I believe most of you are aware of the platform. And we randomly gathered 150 relevant posts for each. And here we can notice some relative information and some key trends. In the UK housing market, there's a strong demand for short-term rentals, especially during the holiday seasons or academic breaks. And most of the times, students will discuss the providers offering flexible rental periods, and mostly near the top universities in London. And also there are other topics such as the budget-friendly options available and pricing listed, probably listed on weekly or monthly basis. And the high-end amenities such as ensuite studios coupled with safety features normally attract Chinese students. And meanwhile, in Australia, that we can notice that competition is quite fierce during the peak seasons, promoting such of affordable housing near universities located in the most popular cities, such as Sydney and Melbourne. And there are a couple of brands that mentioned by the students, and they dominated the discussions. And most of the students, they also sometimes share concerns about the rental challenges, such as steep deposits, policies, and some unfavorable terms. Earlier this year, our team conducted a survey and interviewed 500 students on their preference of choosing student housing. Among all the surveyed students, 50% already have overseas experience and lived in a PBIC before, and the rest 50% is planning studying abroad and on the stage of choosing apartment. So during our survey, that we asked question that the key reasons for them to choose student housing. And here we can see the main reasons would be convenient location for both students already had experience or currently on the planning stage. In addition to that, the following points are also mentioned by both groups, such as high level of safety, excellent surrounding facilities, quality accommodating, just only with different levels of importance. And we can notice that for students who already have experience with studying abroad and also with student accommodations, they are also concerned about the management of the apartments, amenities, and clear and transparent pricing. On the other hand, for the ones who's preparing for the bookings, they also care about the booking and the cancellation process, special offers, and community activities they will experience. I believe for most of the audience today that you are experienced professionals in the industry, or at least quite familiar with the sector. So I'm sure these brands, which represent the key players in the major destinations, they are not new to you. These represent student housing providers. They are permanently in the Chinese market. They often collaborate with aggregators and education agencies in China to recruit students. Regarding the agencies, as part of our work that we also list over here, that we have mapped out the agent market in China, that currently we have over 1,600 active agencies through several years of developing. Meanwhile, social media plays an important role in the marketing and promotion, and also with the direct student recruitment. With most of these providers that we list here, maintaining active accounts and strong brand presence on Chinese platforms. So for our audience today, if you haven't yet explored this avenue, and we highly recommend to leverage the social media to engage with the Chinese market effectively, understanding the local culture, or partnering with aggregators or agencies, it can make a quite significant difference in building your brand visibility. Well, overall, I think we hope that we presented some interesting facts. Moving on to our next part of the session, also the main part for today's webinar, let me welcome our panelists. If you could turn the camera now and turn the camera and come to the virtual stage. And we are glad to introduce the panelists joining us today. And we have Eunice Chung, Head of Product from Student.com, Alan Gu, General Manager, China East Asia from Vita Student, and Eric Wang, Senior Manager, Sales and Marketing from Westways. And so, hi everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today on our panel session. So if you could please just have a round of a short introduction and about yourself and the organizations. So maybe let's lady first from Eunice.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me here on this webinar. My name is Eunice. I'm a head of product at Student.com, and we've been in the student accommodation sphere for the past 12 years now. We help students find their perfect student housing by making it quick and easy for them to book. And we work with Vita and Y Suites and a lot of the other brands on our platform to promote them and help students book directly with them.
Thank you, Eunice. And Alan?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for gracing invitation today. So I'm Alan from Vita Student. I'm working for Vita Student nearly 8 years. So thank you.
Yeah, I think there was some like breakups on Alan's side, and I'm not sure if most of the audience captured what you just mentioned. Alan, if you don't mind, can you just repeat? I think probably there's
sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, phone internet. Yeah, so I will do the introduction. So I'm Alan from Vita Students, and it's nearly my 8 years working for Vita right now, and I'm in charge of the China and the East Asia business, and mainly also focus on all the partnership networking, sales marketing, extra. So, and also I'm working for international education industry over 10 years right now. So very looking forward to today's exchange ideas with all the professionals. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. And last but not least, Eric.
Hey, thanks, Grace. Hello, guys. I'm Eric from Y Suites. So Y Suites, we do the PBSA business in Australia, covers 5 major cities, over 6,000 beds. So I think this year is my 10th year in PBSA industry. So I'm looking forward to communicating with all the industry professionals here. Thanks.
All right, thank you all for the introduction. So you can see that we have a quite experienced industry experts joining us today. So I will probably shoot my first question, and I want to start with the general market trend at the beginning. As previously shared in my presentation, that we have noticed an increasing demand for the student studying abroad, but also for student housing sector. And there are many discussions among the students on the topic on the social media. So maybe if Eunice can share some insight with us as one of the biggest aggregators that in China, and that you have the first-hand feedback from the students. So what role do you think the Chinese students play in the overall marketing strategy? And have you observed any shifts in their demand for the student housing sector, or their familiarity with the concept of the past several years?
I think at Student.com, being one of the first student housing marketplaces to enter the global market, we were still founded in Shanghai. So we've always been supporting Chinese students and have a key strength in China. So even though China had a slower post-COVID recovery, I think market fundamentals are still very strong. We serve students from all over the world, both domestically and internationally, looking for accommodation overseas. So we still see Chinese students seeking education abroad increasingly, and are still driven by the desire for high quality education. I think user behavior on our platform show that Chinese students understand and know these PBSA brands well through social media and a lot of information online. They also show that, however, they are more also price sensitive and often compare between different brands and different options, and are also very research savvy. So as an aggregator, we provide a lot of this information to them to do their research across different options and brands.
All right, thank you, Eunice. I think this is some observations that we also get in recent years that students can be quite price sensitive recently. And well, speaking of the students' portfolios, the next questions probably for Alan, that I understand you are managing a big recruitment team in China and in East Asia, and based on your years of student recruitment experience, especially in the mainland China region, is there a significant differences that you in recruitment preference that you notice, such as between tier 1 and tier 2 cities, or between the northern or southern region of China?
Yeah, so for China mainland market, I think it still will be really focused on all the tier 1 city like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen. So for example, like Vita student Chinese nationality distribution, I think these 4 cities generally will cover nearly 50% of the total volumes of our Chinese residents. But still, when the market is going very mature at the moment for Chinese markets, I think tier 2, even tier 3 to tier 5 city is also very important, especially, for example, like North and South China will be very different in the culture and also the student recruitment activity. So for example, from North China, it will be very highly concentrated in Beijing as a city, although we still have 3 big provinces, Northern and Beijing. But all these 3 region students will tend to go to Beijing for the, looking for the education consultant or the agency, while the South China will be a very different story, because South China, especially the Great Bay Area, every different small cities also have very strong, for example, individual consultant agency or education partners. So take Vita as example, we work over 300 education agency with active to send us students and bookings every year, while we see the Great Bay Area will cover nearly around 1/3 of the total small agents who also send us some decent volumes. So I do think it will be decided by different strategy with the, let's say, the different landlord companies, and also their portfolio show the data for them.
Thank you so much, Alan, that you just mentioned strategies. And so the next areas that we want to discuss a little bit on our recruitment channels. We just mentioned that most of the providers are developing on both partner cooperation with aggregators and with the education agencies, and in the meanwhile on social media for market promotion. And in recent years that we have noticed the rebound of students, particularly in Australia, in the last 2 years, I believe. So the next question probably for Eric. And you have also have this growing local team that I know that I wonder with your local team promoting the brand, what strategy that help you maintain a balance between the partnership like bookings with agents and aggregators, and also with direct bookings?
Thanks, Grace, for your question. Actually, it's very easy to answer. We do need to balance, because in the very beginning, of the idea, we're setting up our social media accounts. We know, okay, our purpose is just for the branding, and also now gradually we have to do a lot of the PR things because we need to deal with the negative or the urgent posts on Xiaohongshu, the red, yeah. So it's a new brand. So Y Suites we established in the COVID, actually in early 2020. Then we decide to set our own social media accounts in, I think in the mid of 2021. We decided to set up Weibo, WeChat, Xiaohongshu, Red, and also Bilibili, this kind of accounts. Based on my experiences, that this actually PBSA business is an agent business anyway. Um, I remember in my early years, so the direct booking versus the agent booking, I mean from China market, uh, originally can be 40 to 60%. Then in 2018, down to 30%, 70%. Uh, 2019 before COVID came down to 20, 80. Now it's like 10% to 90%. Yeah, even less. I think the China market, our direct booking is just like 5%. But my reservation team in Singapore and the marketing team, they also do the direct booking. That's another part. Yeah. But in China, we don't purposely, do the uh, uh, direct booking. But sometimes, a lot of times, we have a lot of the booking crash with aggregators. I just tell the team, yeah, just leave this student, give to the aggregators to handle to deal with, as long as they can send to us. That's fine.
That's quite interesting because you did mention that the direct bookings is actually declined, like a percentage wise compared to previous years. They are still more focused on the partnerships with aggregators. And that I know that besides all those platforms that you just mentioned, and you also do the live streaming, and students, they can share their experience and some testimonials. So, do you think those digital marketing and also the branding, and how do you just compare them to the traditional partnerships with the aggregators and agencies? Because do you think those somehow will be the main focus for you for your marketing team in the future, since you already have a quite stable relationship with the aggregators, or do you think that you can probably only maintain as it is for now?
Well, the aggregators or the agencies, because in YSuite, we divided or classify the agents two parts. Okay, the first one is the study overseas agencies. Okay, the second one, the major one, is aggregators. Okay, so from YSuite's perspective of view, we will still prioritize the partnership with our agent partners actually. So the direct booking, so we do, like you mentioned, we do the live stream things. It's a very new and a creative way to do the marketing, to do the branding actually for us. For example, the live stream. I think it's Wisely is the first PBSA in China. We do the live stream. The live stream we do from the property, and also we do from the China office. The live stream from the property, so we sometimes do it for our campaigns, like the 11/11 campaign. And also, to be honest, a lot of aggregator partners, they request us to do, Eric, do you guys have the time, do the live stream for our students? I mean, use their platform social media account. Yeah, of course, we can do that. No problem. Yeah. But from the our China office do the live stream is, we do a lot of educational work, before you go to Australia, what kind of things you need to pack, this kind of thing all week. and also what kind of the rooms, and also the visa, a lot of things you need to prepare. This kind of things, more educational. I mean, from our China office live stream. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is something that I think a lot of providers are trying to do. Like similarly in Vita, that I know that they also do this pre-departure kind of like a handbook instructions for students every single year. And during our regular communication with the agencies, some of them that shared that often students will reach out to them directly and ask for their assistance. Probably they didn't notice those, live stream or the instructions that you shared, and they will apply for some particular brand, and because they saw the posts on social media, or they read some good reviews about a provider. So probably I want to ask Eunice, so from your perspective, does this situation often happen? And do you say the recruitment channels is sometimes even more important than the product itself, and even can stimulate students during the decision-making process?
I would say both the recruitment channel and the product itself are important, and they complement each other very well. So the importance of the product shouldn't be underestimated, since our students are actually going to university for multiple years. These PBSA brands would want to attract students to book not only for the first year, but also to rebook for following years. So the product itself, very important. You want to be as attractive as possible for multiple year bookings. But for the recruitment channel, actually we, and as a partner of many other recruitment channels, these PBSA brands would leverage on the channels for our reach and our traffic to promote themselves to Chinese students as well as global students. So the channel itself is a very good touch point that brands can make use of to engage with their potential students earlier on in the process of searching for and exploring their life and accommodation options abroad. So we're continuing to stay engaged with different recruitment channels. It's very important for brands to make sure that they are at the top of students' considerations and decision-making processes. Yeah.
Thank you, Eunice. I think we totally agree that since this student housing is not only for like one-time decision making, but most of times that we also want students to stay in the properties. And speaking of the product, and I think on early presentations that we mentioned, the student survey that we conducted, and some key areas, key reasons why students choose student housing providers. So probably the next question for Alan, and I think UK student housing market is quite relatively mature in China. And so what features do you think the Chinese students prioritized most when choosing the student housing providers? Of course, beyond price and location. And so how do you team highlight your unique selling points most of the times?
Yeah, so on this point, I think Grace, you just mentioned two key items, which is the location and price. So when I joined Vita student, at that time, student come teach me like this is the two most important items when students choose the accommodation. Definitely not the story for today's world, because the Z generation start to go abroad and for study. And I will say this question is very hard to answer. I just checked the question list some attendants raised out, for example, community events. Some students may very looking forward to the community events, while some others may totally don't, care about it. So it's very diversified by different people, especially as China is a very much majority of the residents for most of the landlords, I think. And because it's too big and from different region, they have different needs. And as for Vita students, as we all know, Vita is one of the top brand in the UK market. So we do offer too many kind of different diversified requests for the students. So for example, like we don't used to have free breakfast, but because we realize Chinese students do like these services, so we upgrade our free breakfast right now, even to a very full British brunch at the moment with the sausage, hash browns, and eggs. And we don't used to do that, but because of all through our survey, we feel like students do want this, so we upgrade for this. So all our services upgraded is very based on our former residents' feedback. So we upgrade all the time and we start to do more things with different needs from the students' requests. So I think this question is really depending on what's the diversification of the nationality of the students that landlord have, and also about what's the real feedback from that building's resident feedback to decide what's the real things they need to do.
So you have mentioned that strategies are also some like activities that your team is planning, and so any tips that you can probably other teams, the tips that you can provide, how make the PBSA more attractive, especially to meet the expectations of Chinese students regarding such as safety, facilities, or services. So, yeah.
So on this point, I think some nature services is still important, like safety for sure. I think 24-hour security is a very essential point, which most Chinese students and also Asian students is really care about. And as a plus, for example, I think more landlords right now all have the gyms, have the social area, have study space, which is also very popular with the Chinese students. But beyond that, I think it's mainly about what kind of the extra little things they can do for the residents, depending on their request. So for example, like we will do the personal training classes once a week in different buildings in our gym. And that's quite popular, sometimes with the yoga class, sometimes with the boxing classes. And it's mainly depending on the different sides, students' feedback will be different. So I think all these things will be what I said, the little extra things, because you already have a gym there, then the little extra things can be the personal training classes, which will win more good reputation from your residents.
All right, thank you. And the next question is again for Eric. And you just mentioned some tips on the social media platforms, promotions, and also the live stream, and also on Little Red Book. And it's kind of like a bit tricky one on the ones that you also just mentioned about reviews. We know each product or services, there always be reviews. So do you think those reviews from the students are quite important in building the trust in the brand? And do you encourage overall reviews, and how do you most of the times to handle the negative reviews or posts on social media?
Okay, Grace, it's a great question actually. Y Suites, we pay a lot of attention on the reviews actually. I remember there's one aggregator in China. So they first approached me, hey Eric, do you guys want some reviews? We have a review function. I said, wow, it's great. We want more review. It's just like the 大众点评 in China. So if you want to go out to have the meal, you need to check, okay, which good restaurants nearby, right? So I tell them, hey, can you make the Y Suites the Melbourne property get the most reviews, okay? So they did achieve that. They did achieve that. If you click on the web page, select the Melbourne, because Melbourne is a highly competitive market. Okay, I think it's over 9,000 PBSA beds in the market. And if you click the Melbourne market, Y Suites on a bag is on the top. Okay, Y Suites on a bag on the top. And it's really paid off the hard work. Actually, for example, this semester, what we hear from the aggregator partner is Y Suites on AB sells very fast. Actually, to be honest, the data also shows the semester one occupancy is almost 90% now. So almost sold out. Yeah, it's just some very on the left some very few ensuite rooms. Yeah, the review is very important. The students' testimonial is very important. The students' interview very important. Yeah, we are willing to actually invest in more money on this actually. Then back to your question about how we manage the bad reviews or negative reviews on website or on the social media. Actually, I should ask my marketing team colleagues to answer that. We actually monitor the posts on social media closely. We have a team monitor on Little Red Book, the red. So every time we see a negative post, so we will analyze, hey, this is real or not? Because sometimes, a lot of times actually, students just feel not happy, not comfortable, because you post little red box just okay, say 1 minute, right? He or she is not happy because of some small things. Yeah. So we will analyze, hey, what the student say is real or not. Then we will check with our operation team. We check with our property team, and my marketing staff will deal with that accordingly. Actually, yeah. And so far, I think they deal with that quite good. So far, so good. Yeah.
Great. So I think it's quite important for providers, to follow up timely and even with those negative reviews, and maybe just solve the problems. And most of the times, I don't think they are like big problems, and I think it will actually make a difference if you take it carefully and solve it on time with the students. And also the next one, at the beginning of the presentation, that we also shared some data on student mobility and the visa granted numbers. So we all know how important the visa policies sometimes can affect the overall trend. So I want to ask Eunice, probably for the next one. So as you provide services for students in all major destinations, so do you think those tighter visa policies or certain policy changes in some markets affect student numbers or the overall booking trends? And is there any adjustment that the PBIC providers can make to respond with those policy changes in the key markets?
I think as there are policy and visa restrictions in certain markets, we definitely see the impact on student traffic to certain destinations on our site, because Chinese students are quite sensitive to, alongside other international students as well, they're very sensitive to local policies in whether they can get their student visa and also whether they will be able to stay on for future work opportunities as well. So this is all part of their consideration. So visa policies do affect students' decision-making processes. And we're also seeing that students are also deciding closer to enrollment dates, actually, because of maybe some uncertainty in visa or other policies. Students are making bookings a bit later. They're making certain decisions closer to the time of their university start date. So this is probably something that PBSA brands can take note of and maybe run certain promotions or campaigns closer to enrollment dates.
I think that's quite useful tips for the providers, and we'll based on the the feedback of our China market, I think definitely the providers need to adjust their strategies accordingly and timely, related to the feedback of the market itself, related to the any, relative policies. And I think in a way, there's definitely a lot of like unique strategies that providers can make to adjust to respond such kind of like changes. And on the last questions, and I wonder if our panelists they can give us some like insights on the future outlook of the China market. So perhaps we can start with the accommodation providers. So gentlemen, so what strategies, changes that you team are currently considering in response to the current trends in the Chinese market? Perhaps we can start with Alan.
So strategy for Vita, I will say we always keep the same. Is like we work with partners and we also do our direct sales in the China market. Because Vita is a very different brand. As we are quite premium, we charge higher rent. So frankly speaking, for our target audience group, they will never really focus on only one channel. That's why we have to work a lot of different platforms, different agency, different partners. So for example, we even work with HSBC for their premium, customers group, which also see some decent results. So it's mainly about diversification on channels. And then it's also will be diversification on the nationality. That's why we also see very good nationality increase in the recent years in the East Asia region. No matter like the South Korean or Singapore, Japanese or Vietnam students also see the good increase. And then third thing about the China strategy, I think will be really to create the value. That's also the key message we deliver to all our teams and our partners, because we strongly believe that Vita really create different things for our students and to make them really successful and have the great experiences. That's why we invest so much in the China market to really make the students feel like the engagement. And for example, like we have the Vita Alumni program, so which make the different Russell Group students as a group. When after they come back to even China, we organize a quarterly alumni event. We'll have more than 100 students flying from every city to Shanghai or Beijing to attend such events. So for example, like last year, Christmas party, we have more than 250 alumni before students come back to attend. It also proves that the Vita community have that value to make the students feel like, I'm a Vita alumni, that's a reputation, that's an honor. And it makes Vita very different from a lot of the brand is like, they feel the Vita students is not just a premium student brand, but really a community, but the concept that they want to be. So it's much more like when we compare with the retail industry, I would say it's maybe different with Louis Vuitton and Coach. So I think that's something else we're really focused on, especially for the China market.
Thank you so much, Alan. And probably the same question for Eric. So what types of strategies that you are considering for the China market?
Well, I would say for China market, we YSUIS will just continue what we are doing now, actually. But for some points, I want to actually focus on is the aggregators to provide more support to the aggregators, especially to the counselors actually to improve their knowledge about the products. Actually, a lot of the aggregators, especially the new ones, Y3 team always the first one to come there to do the trainings, not about only Y3, but about the Australia market actually. The second thing is we want to focus on is the conversion rate actually for the aggregators there. The other thing I want to do actually not only our Y3s, we need to team up with other Australia PBSA providers to education the market. Actually, the students still not like the UK market. They still don't know much about the PBSA. To be honest, they want private rental, private rental, private rental. So private rental is a big threat to the Australia PBSA providers, especially from early this year. semester 2 this year, actually. A lot of students just want the private rental. They don't want the PBSA. So we need to do a lot of the market education work actually with the other our other Australia PBSA provider friends. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Eric. So the last question that I want to ask Eunice from the perspective of an aggregator. So what advice that you can offer to the student housing providers and who's currently looking to boost their bookings in China?
So I think I echo Eric's sentiment that working with aggregators or marketplaces, as well as local agents, universities, these partners are key. And even Alan mentioned for Vita, they work with other types of partners like HSBC or more premier types of recruitment channels as well. I think continuing these partnerships is very important. I mentioned just now that students are making a final decision perhaps later, but I would say that students are starting their research or exploration process earlier. So because they have more access to information online, they are increasingly proactive in understanding their options and comparing between the different choices out there. And there's even more choice now, PBSA being one of them. And as Eric mentioned, private apartments being like a competitor to PBSAs as well. So I think for brands, marketing themselves as and having a unique proposition as a brand is important. And perhaps even marketing themselves through these marketplaces and aggregators. The content on like student.com, for example, we provide access and ability for all of our brands on student.com to make changes to their content themselves, and they can highlight their unique selling points through their student.com listing so that they can differentiate themselves amongst the so many options out there. So not only through direct marketing channels, they can differentiate themselves through aggregators where they are side by side between all the different options out there. How do they stand out amongst the crowd when they're in a list of options out there is, I think, something that brands can think about and continue to work with aggregators on. Yeah, we're also seeing that students are more willing to engage directly with partners and brands themselves. So, and they're also keen to have a more instant booking experience, especially Chinese students. They're very used to instant gratification. Similarly, through their booking process as well, they want to be able to get access to information and confirmation as quickly as possible. They may not want to wait for certain confirmations. So I think brands would have to maybe work with aggregators to provide more real-time feedback loop as well as information so that students can make their bookings much more efficiently.
Thank you so much, Eunice, and thank you all for sharing the insights. And before we conclude the panel session, and I want to dedicate a couple more minutes for the Q&A session. And I noticed that quite many questions are already asked by our audience, and probably we will select one or two of them because of the time. And no particular orders, I probably will only select one or two. And there's this one, as a student housing company, we notice Chinese students don't often join the community events. Do you think it will be important for us, for the providers, to focus more on Chinese culture, focus the events in order to, for Chinese students to be interested at living at our location? I wonder any of our panelists help with this one when it comes to events.
I think it should be still popular with some part of Chinese students. As I just mentioned, it's mainly depending on what kind of the event. So, for example, we usually will do some cooking classes events. It's quite popular, but it's also depending on, for example, what kind of things to cook or different kind of the styles. So it really depends. I think that analysis with the students' feedback within the building will be quite important.
And also maybe another question before we conclude. And there's this one about, well, I think quite actually interested in UK student accommodation process. And maybe for Alan again, the UK student accommodation journey, when they normally start looking for PBSA, do they only go through aggregators or they direct bookings? Do they really need physical presence in the China for the brand?
So it's a lot of question here actually. So generally speaking, I think so. First thing about the process, I think normally Chinese students at the current time, normally in the Q4 for the nature year, it's most about the application for the universities. And after Chinese New Year, normally into the March or April time, you start to have more inquiries about accommodation. And of course, going to the summertime will be at the top booking season for every landlord, I think. And then regarding the brand or the presence in China, I would say it's mainly depending on that landlord strategy because different brands have different strategy. But as I said, because Vita is a premium brand, that's why we are very essential to do such a strategy in China because that will earn us a huge brand awareness. Just like after through nearly 10 years operating our China offices and China business here, I'm very confident if one single students know about the UK PBSA provider, it's likely to be the Vita student. So that's the result we achieved through all these years investments. So again, but let's say if you are considering about to have offices or brand in China, I would strongly recommend you to work around visit China and find yourself if it's worth or not.
Thank you, Alan. And probably one last question. I know that Eric also answered one, typing the answers, but there's a new one for Eric. Is the strong competition with private housing in Australia mostly down to price differences, or are there any other reasons?
Okay, actually, it's a good question. I think the first reason is the students don't know about the PBSA in Australia. Okay, it's not like in the UK. Everyone knows. Okay, I go to study in the UK. I stay in a PBSA. Second one is actually the Chinese economy is slowing down, so the students' budget actually is getting lower. Yeah, if you say, hey, you're going to study in USYD, USW, look at the PBSA prices. Wow, $800 per week. They will say, wow, that's too high for me. Then the budget from the family now is only like 500 or 550. Then if 500 or 550, they can definitely actually find a room in private rental actually. Yeah, so actually a lot of the reasons. I think the most important one is the student don't know much about the PBSA. Not as popular as the UK one. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Eric. And I know there's a lot of questions asked by our audience, and because of the time, we probably can't go through with them one by one, but we will follow up later on for all unanswered questions. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of Bonnet and our attendees to our panelists for sharing their tremendous insights and recommendations today. And we highly appreciate it. Looking forward to reconnecting with you, hopefully in the near future. And last, quickly, before we conclude, briefly, just let me mention that over recent years, that we have developed an interactive platform which currently consists of in-house data for more than 14,000 PBIC assets in our 260 markets and sub-markets across the globe, allowing the real-time access to the time series data, such as supply, demand, rental levels, and pipeline. So if you will be interested or wish to get a demo access, just feel free to reach out to us. And in the meanwhile, for more market information, valuable data, or ongoing insights, you can also subscribe to our Market Monitor, which is a daily digest of the most notable sector and the market-related news. And to get access, you can just simply sign up here on the link shown below, or reach out to us. And you just need to submit a simple form to start receiving our Market Monitor. So as I just mentioned, we will try to follow up to the questions that we didn't get a chance to answer today. And the presentation slides and the recording will be available upon request later on. And lastly, just want to say thank you very much, everyone, for your attendance and the attention today. We appreciate your interest and wish all happy holiday season. And have a nice rest of the day. Thank you.